Okay, see if we've got all the settings going right. And yeah, back at it again. Oh, why did I lose my voice now? All of a sudden, I'm going to move these things off to the side. This is the building that we were working on before, and it's pretty much complete, other than being sealed. And here's the one that we were working on. Full of partisans for scale. And I got to see what we got left to do on it. It's not much to, we got a little roof tiles to do. Okay, that's what we're going to do that next. We got this ladder to paint. We got this sign to kind of do. And yeah, let's do the roof tiles. If I can remember what color I used last time. I know we made some kind of a mix. Let's see what these look like. It's a little bit of a gray. There's a little bit of a blue in them. They just kind of represent whatever kind of roof tiles were on here before. Let's go ahead and get a gray and English navy. And probably a little bit of black. No, not this one. Where's the one from folk art? The folk art. What'd they do with it? Not all craft paints created the same. I find the folk art one's actually the best one. Is it open? All right, we'll use the deco art. All right. It's here somewhere, but and my cough's back. So apparently my cough is related to Florida weather, I guess, pollen or something. I've been gone for about a week, out of the country actually, and didn't cough once. And as soon as I landed back in Florida, I started coughing again. Make sure all the chat stuff's up. Okay. And let's get the super readers here. Oh, much better. Much better. I don't know if they make these in anything stronger than 375. I think that's what these are. 325 plus 325. All right, let's put a little bit of English navy, and we're going to use this pewter gray. And let's see, and let's put a black here, just a tiny little bit of that, and see what we got. See what we got going on. Yes, as I always say is, if I'm not online or anything, I'm not out there painting. I'm not out there painting without you guys, without being filmed. I pretty much just only do this on camera because I'll be honest with you, I just get bored. I get bored if I'm not doing this. So even though I'm doing most of it doesn't have to be exactly that same color. I'm just going to go with a really dark gray. We're going to paint all these guys as the first coat. Even though I'm doing most of call it socializing, definitely doing most of the talking. The fact that someone can chime in, at least as an option for some kind of interaction. If I'm just doing this alone, that's just pretty much a flying solo 100%. So if you haven't seen an episode in over a week, well, I haven't been painted in over a week. Yes?
Yeah, grab something for the backpack.
Not paused.
The backpack.
Hmm?
Check and see if the iPad ended up back in there. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Maroon Cardinal. How was the trip? Well, let's call it 2 trips. Okay? We'll call it the trip there and the trip while I was there, and then the trying to get back. That's really 2 trips. The trip there and the trip around there went really well. They had warned us that it was going to be really, really hot, which I am a creature of expectations. So if I expect something to be really, really hot and I still plan on going along with it, I'm kind of prepared for it being really, really hot. And I was. And it was not as hot as it is here because there was almost no humidity. So although it was hot, there was a breeze and there was air circulation most of the time, and everybody else was dying, and the rest of us were like, yeah, it's hot as shit, but, it's worse at home. So it went pretty well. I went to go visit some friends of the family. They've been wanting us to get down to this place in Mexico for, I don't know, maybe a decade, something like that. When there's no humidity, shade is actually helpful. So here in Florida, the shade is useless. It's almost the same temperature. There, it's dramatic difference. I mean, it's every bit of 20 degrees difference. So, yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal. Interestingly enough, it's not like it's the humidity is, the humidity is good for you, but it's also bad for you because you step outside and you smell horrible. You smell like you just walked into somebody's shrimp salad, and that didn't happen there. So that went well. Hey Hoffman, you went to New Mexico and felt shade for the first time. I've heard bad things about New Mexico. I heard beautiful country, but they got problems there. A lot of crime, poverty. It's interesting how poverty and crime kind of go hand to hand. But yeah, it went really well. Went to go see 2 sets of ruins. We had a couple of guides that were, did a couple of day trips with, 8 of us in the truck, van. Went to go see 2 sets of ruins, among other things. And the first guide is like, hey, I'm going to be your guide the first day. I'm not going to be here the next day. And I'm like, man, that really sucks because you really know what the hell you're talking about. You speak clear. Of course, it's all in Spanish, which, isn't a problem for me. I don't have an education in Spanish, meaning I don't have a very big vocabulary. I don't know technical words. I'll have to interject those in English as I come across them, but understand. I am hard of hearing, so if I got a guide that doesn't speak up very loudly, but the first guy was great, so I was very leery of the second guy, and he ended up blowing the first guy away. He was a guy that was passionate about history. He was as passionate about the ruins as I am about World War II stuff, and he was on a tear. So I really prodded him for information. I ended up filming the second day of when we went to the ruins. The ruins are two totally different things. One of them is from basically 1300 to the Spanish conquest time period, and the first one is the big one, the main ruins there at Montalban, which is I want to say it's even pre. I think I want to say it's even in BC through like 500 AD. So it's really old. And it was just really interesting, plugging in for information and stuff like that. And I may put it up on my channel. It's all in Spanish, and it's not professionally done. I am not a professional. The thing is most of the time when I kind of do these impromptu filmings, that's exactly what they are. They're impromptu filmings. I hadn't planned. Sometimes, I'm like listening. I'm like, oh, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Shit, I better film this because, why not? And he didn't mind being filmed at all. Anyway, so that went really well, and did a couple other things. And, it was hot. Everybody was complaining about being hot. And I'm like, I was out there 2-3 hours, and I think at those particular ruins like 2 or 3 hours. It wasn't a big deal, and everybody was chill. I didn't drive anywhere, thank goodness, because I'd be worried about borrowing somebody's vehicle or renting a vehicle, and then worried about superficial damage. It wasn't like it was high-speed traffic, but they're trying to put 3 cars where one goes, kind of thing, and it's just I don't like that kind of stress on vacation. Yeah, it kind of sucks. Don't get caught speeding on the reservations. I don't even know what I don't think I've ever set foot in a reservation. But so that went well. Zero rain, which is good because there's a lot of soot and stuff. We're just kind of not used to stuff in third world countries. Third world countries, you take things for granted. Air conditioning is one of them. I knew air conditioning was going to be an issue. Food, people can say whatever they want. The first thing I miss when I go somewhere is food. And I don't mean American food. I just mean, because I'm not necessarily a hamburger, steak, baked potato kind of person. I mean, I don't mind eating eclectic things, but the level of cleanliness and the standards of cleanliness that we take for granted here in the United States is just kind of like a totally different ball game. So my daughter, she says, a pretty strong stomach, we went through a market one time, and I think on the last official day, because we actually had to leave a day later, but I'll get to that. On the last official day, we went through a market, and they've got butcher stuff there that is not in an environment where you can just smell it a mile away, and she was like, oh man, I can't believe, it's like, like I've said before I went, Americans are really used to having this food and not everywhere, because we went into like a Walmart. It had a different name brand or whatever, and it was cleaner than the Walmarts here in the United States, which I know that's not saying much. I'm just saying that was a really clean store. So it's not everywhere. It is a land of extremes. You go into businesses and they have Facebook pages. They have Instagram things. We had a good signal everywhere. Cell phone signals. And then, you've got, if you go use a toilet there, and this is funny because I've had this problem at work where you cannot flush the toilet. Not that I had this problem, but because I have to go number 2 out in the open, but they don't want you to flush the toilet paper down the commode because it'll stop up the system. So you have these extremes. It's not like it's all backwards or anything. None of us got stomach sick at all, and we pretty much ate everything. Within reason. We didn't stop and eat something on the side of the road but we ate at restaurants. We had their filtered water. None of us got sick. Felt great every day. But while we were there, an interesting thing happened, and apparently this is a common event. Is there was a strike of the teachers strike, and I mean teachers like elementary school, whatever, and they literally just set up camp in the middle of the town, in the middle of the city. It's not in the middle of a town. It's a city. It's a city of 200 something thousand, and they just set up camp. They just show up and they just put tarps down and put tents where they want and sleep in the middle of the street. And they're not necessarily impoverished people. They're just people that they took to the streets and like, we're going to block this road. And there's nothing you can do about it, because apparently the police or the authorities came down on them about a decade ago, and there was a big public outcry against that. And basically everybody just sits around and watches them do this, and there's nothing they can do about it because they just make a big deal out of it being human rights. So you go in this downtown of this city, and for I'm going to say an 8, maybe a 10 block by 10 block square, you can't drive a car in there because they're sending out, like, camping out. Now, luckily, they're not interacting with you. They're not like, hey, you're an asshole for crossing the picket line or anything. They're just going about their business, and you're going about yours. Isn't really an issue. But the authorities can't move them, and they just, apparently this happens every 3 months, 3 or 4 months. It's not like an isolated situation. I didn't know. I wasn't expecting that sort of a thing. But the police can't come in there and just say, hey, you guys are blocking the progress of the human race. You guys need to move over here. And, yes, you're allowed to protest, and no, we're not allowed to beat you, but you can't sit there. And there's people that, if you have your business if you have this property downtown where you say make your business to have people park in your parking garage, and they decide to block the road and set up camp in front of your parking garage, you have no income and there's nothing you can do about it. And the police won't come help you. The authorities aren't going to come help you until they negotiate something. And apparently this has happened multiple times. According to the people that we know down there, it happens multiple times. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll just go around them. We'll go to the business. We did a lot of walking anyways. That's probably one of the things I like the most, is we did a lot of walking, and there's a lot of stuff to look at. And I would not say it's dangerous. It's probably just as dangerous as walking around here. And we didn't walk around midnight or anything, but no problems at all with that. They did like to shoot off fireworks just randomly. Not at people, you would just hear them and stuff like that. But the issue we ran into, I'm going to take a look at this before it's not any other comments. Oh, y'all went to a wet market. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't live to a third world countries. Make me thank God for simple things like trash collection and toilets. Yeah, I really didn't catch the smells other in that one place. Other than in that one place, it was, I've said it before, Americans aren't used to that. Just like anywhere else in the world, people freak out if they went and saw pictures of a gun show in the United States, like a firearms trading event. And people are, oh my God, they'd crawl up their own uterus. Whereas here, it's like, what's the big deal? So it's a cultural thing. So on the day we're supposed to fly out, this group of people, and these are like teachers, so they're not badasses. Okay, it's not like it's this herd of carnivores that are going to come in and maul you. It is just tens of thousands of teachers that get told by their masters where they're supposed to report to and be a nuisance, so that the authorities supposedly could come to the table for them and make an offer. So the day we're supposed to leave, they go to the airport, and they literally block the entire fucking airport. And they blocked the airport so badly that the airport authorities literally put like this. It reminded me of a scene from Walking Dead. It was like this big wall where nobody could come in, nobody could come out. Well, first of all, they couldn't drop. So we get taken to the airport, and they only can drop us off within half a mile. So we got to grab our stuff and carry it half a mile to the airport. You can't roll the suitcases because the road is heavy enough gravel that you would destroy you wouldn't make it. So all right, we're gonna walk up there. So after half a mile, or you're like about a half a mile, you're like, what's going on here? Oh, it's all blocked. I said, okay, so we can go in, but the protesters can't come in. No, I said everybody's blocked. So there's people inside the airport that are shut down inside the airport. We can't go to the airport. The flights are canceled. We don't know how long it's going to last. Nobody's violent. Nobody's violent at all. But it's like everybody is a pacifist and just assumes that, well, this is just how it is. I said, well, I got a job I got to go back to. And as a matter of fact, I was supposed to fly in and make it back yesterday so I could go into work today, because the plane was going to get in really, really late. And I didn't make it. So we had to leave there, walk a half hour back. My wife who is the calm one, but normally I was totally calm. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I mean, if they had gotten violent or something like that, I'm like, all right, well, it's time to start swinging. But no, it was just like, I was surprised that, and apparently this happens all the time. The cops can't come in. They don't shoo people out of the way or anything like that. So we left. Like, I guess we'll just have to try back again tomorrow. We heard later on in the afternoon, like around 5, there's a little village that's there towards the entrance of the airport, and the villagers couldn't get in and out of their village, and they had enough of it. So they said they went out after them with sticks and machetes, and they drove those guys off. And I don't know. So so we tried again the next morning, and which was yesterday, and we were able to do that. And then the planes kept getting delayed, and we're like, man, if they do this again, we're not, because basically the planes never came in. They're not going to bring in planes for nobody being able to get to the planes to take off. So, but none of it was violent. It was just, I consider Mexico let's see, how could I say this? A machismo country. Like a fuck you, we're gonna do it, just like a bat, and it's not. They're a bunch of sheep. They basically, like, nobody stands up for anything. Everybody's kind of like, well, this is just the way. And I'm sure there's areas where that's not the case, but everybody I just encountered, people were just like willing to just like, just kind of go with the flow, and well, that's just what it is. And I'm like, anyhow, so we're glad to be gone from there. Glad to be gone from there, and not planning on coming back. Not planning on going back. And it's not the people. The people was fine. I tell you what, though, I couldn't wait. We got back to the airport in Dallas yesterday, very late, and we're like, we need to eat some normal food. And I'm not saying that there's not normal food, but it's like you go to a lot of places there, and I personally thought the menu was really, and I'm not difficult to find things to eat, but you had to tiptoe around menu items to find something to eat. First of all, the area that we were in has historically has been known to eat bugs for protein, like grasshoppers. I ain't eating fucking bugs. I'm not going to eat fucking, I don't give a shit what they taste like. I'm not eating bugs. I'm not eating fucking worms. I'm just not going to do it as a matter of principle. And a lot of this stuff had that. And this wasn't shitty restaurants. Okay. This was like, reasonable looking places that would look, that are like a place I would eat here in the United States. And you had to like figure that out. And of course, there's colloquialisms for different ingredients, whether it's mushrooms or this like that I'm not necessarily familiar with, because it's a certain dialect of Spanish, and everybody calls those little things different. So you had to figure out, okay, what's this mean? What is this? What's this considered? Oh, well, this is corn. Well, why don't you just call it mice? Oh, no, we call it something different here. I'm like, why? So um, the biggest pain in the ass was water. And it's not what you think, okay? Because every place had bottled water, but they have. Do you want water? Okay, I want water. Well, do you want filtered water? Or do you want it to come in a big bottle or a small bottle? And they charge you for that. And do you want to have bubbles in it? Do you want? I just want fucking water. I've never missed tap water so much as anything else. And it was just made such a big deal out of the fucking water. And like I said, I can speak the language and can communicate with them. And I can't imagine people from the United States that are not familiar with that just having to go through all those sorts of things. So, be like, oh, well, this is good. Oh, this is rabbit. I'm not eating fucking rabbit either. I'm like, if I have to, if somebody holds a gun to my head, but, nobody's supposed to have guns there, right? So nobody can hold a gun to your head. But we're glad to be fucking back. Let's put it that way. And we had a good trip. I would not say we had a bad trip. The ruins were awesome. I mean, absolutely awesome. I may put that video up there, but if you don't speak Spanish, you don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But it's going to take me a little bit of time to get all that together. But my wife said it's basically two different trips. It was the way there and while we were there is one trip, and the way back is a different trip. And those kind of inconveniences are okay if you're retired. If you don't have to get back on a certain day, if you don't have to get back on, hey, I've got to get back on this day because I've got my job to do and there's nobody to cover for me. That's in that situation, that's what my problem is. It's not like, I just take another day off. It's not that fucking simple. There's like nobody is doing my stuff while I'm not there. So I don't know what kind of a mess the office will be tomorrow, but I'm going to have to do like 4 lines of Coke just to keep up. But yeah, and almost actually the only people that got me angry were people that were waiting in line. I was waiting to rip somebody a new one, verbally. This old coot was waiting in line. He was like, well, that happens because the government didn't negotiate with him. I said, no, wait a second. I believe people can strike if they want to, but you're not allowed, in my world, you're not allowed to infringe on the liberties of somebody else just because you're doing your liberty. I'm sorry, that's just my libertarian way of looking at it. You can do whatever the hell you want in your house. If it starts spilling into somebody else's house, that's a problem. That's inappropriate. That's unacceptable. And, now that we know that those are the rules and they don't apply there, we're not going there again, And like I said, zero violence. Just imagine if it had been violent. Well, that's just a different, scenario altogether. But, it's like if you have a business, like, well, we're just going to set up camp here, and then you can't move them because it's a civil rights violation. Well, you don't give the right to somebody else to shut down their business either, Just a different world. A different world somebody else can go visit. So, and that wasn't my decision. I mean, my wife's like, I'm not coming back to third world countries anymore. Because that wouldn't happen here in the U.S. It certainly wouldn't happen in Florida or Texas. Be like, hey, we need to get out of here. We're not going to leave. Okay. It's pinata time, So, and then on top of that, we're flying American, and Americans talking about going on strike. It's like, we got to get the fuck out of here before, I got a major mess on my hands. So, anyhow, other than that, we had a good trip. And everybody thought that our biggest problem was going to be, oh, it's so hot. We're unfortunately pros of dealing with a hot environment. I don't like it, but, I've lived here a whole life, so, and it wasn't Florida hot. It wasn't. Okay, I can't watch somebody else's YouTube thing when I'm making something for YouTube. So you guys just have to wait. I appreciate the heads up, but all right, let's check. Let's do a color check here. Yep. A little more of the gray. It's not super blue, just a little bit more of the gray as a highlighter, and or maybe even the white. Let's do that. But anyways, we're back. You know, if I was still doing DBA, I'd probably build a Zapotec army, even though it's like all Auxilia. I think it's like an Auxilia General, 8 Auxilia, 8 fast Auxilia or fast bow, and then like 2 Saloy or something like that. Yeah, I looked it up. But kind of interesting. The guy was really into it. Really into it. One of the things he was telling us about that these guys would play this soccer game. They had this field, stone area to play their soccer-like game. And they said that he was telling us, it's like, yeah, they have 2 teams, and the captain of the winning team would get sacrificed, and he would consider it a great honor. And without missing a beat, I told him, well, that's one way to get me to throw every fucking game. I'm like, oh, we didn't win again. But he was also saying, what else? I guess I was stealing my thunder if you guys end up watching that video, but they used this paint that was made by superheating this rock that had this resin that was inside of it somehow. And the resin would drip out, and it was red. And they would grab that red resin with their hands, and it was as toxic as mercury. And they would mix that with some other stuff to get like red paint, to paint, parts of the pyramids and stuff like that. Red is historically the easiest color to come up with. Because there's lots of different things that have it. In this case, they got it from that rock, and the average lifespan of the people of that civilization was 21 to 27 years old, is what he said. So I guess, if you're getting sacrificed, you're not going to live that long anyways. But it was like super toxic to everyone in the environment, and just breathing the dust in. So I guess they didn't know that. They were just figuring they died from something else. So yeah, that's a good way to get me to throw a game if I'm on the winning team. Well, it's just the captain. It's like, you want to be in charge? Oh, absolutely not. But I guess they thought it was a great honor. I'm of little faith, so that just wouldn't fly well with me. And I wanted to take a picture of some stuff. They had 3 or 4 different churches or cathedrals that were really big, and they were all in decrepit shape. And I don't know whether it's disuse or earthquakes. It's kind of in a heavy earthquake area, and even one of them even had communist shit spray painted on them, like together with Maoism, and it was like an AK-47 and a hammer and sickle. And I didn't get a chance to take a picture of it, but it's like, maybe they need some communism to realize they don't like it. Now, there's no doubt that there's injustices down there that have been done for hundreds of years, but screwing everybody isn't going to solve the problem. And that's exactly what that would do. But anyhow, the people that went down there to visit, they're like, man, we got to get out of here. I'm like, yep, I don't know why you went down there to begin with, but But anyways, it was a cool trip. Can't wait to go see other ruins, and it was really cool to go with a guide that was really passionate about the history. So, anyways, happy D-Day today. That's 80 years ago. And for those of you guys that don't do Facebook and didn't see my post today, on my flight, I saw the Napoleon movie. I watched 2/3 on one leg and a third on the other one, for free, of course. I knew I was going to watch it when it was free, and it was the biggest problem with a movie like that is most of the people that watch that are going to be folks that's the only thing that they'll ever learn about Napoleon, and it's just not a good representation of that. Like if I go and watch a bad World War II movie, right? It's like it doesn't faze me because I'm going to read more about it. I'm going to be like, yeah, it's not what it is, but lowest common denominator population. That's all they're going to know about Napoleon, and they're going to be like, this guy was a real pussy. Like, I don't understand how he took half of Europe. Europe must have been just full of pussies for him to be able to take all of Europe, basically with that kind of a attitude. With anyhow, it wasn't. I was actually expecting it to be worse, but it was pretty bad. Anyhow, I only noticed yesterday. I remember counting down the days last year, though. Yeah, I guess it was big. I would imagine it's probably big to do stuff out there. I'm sure there's probably some websites where like, oh yeah, well the victors write the history. I'm like, you don't want the Germans to win the war. I'm telling you, that's no bueno. There's websites that say, oh yeah, the defenders of Europe, the Germans. I'm like, yeah, what kind of crack are you doing? I mean, unless you're like one of the top 30 Nazis in power, it doesn't benefit you. The Germans winning the war. I want to do this ladder. I want to do it in gray, but I want to add a little bit of green to it. I don't know why. I just feel like I want to do that. So I'm going to take some of this green and see where we go with this. But I don't make this stuff up. I literally came across them. You full of shit, Tony. I'm not troll or not troll. There's several people that I've seen make comments like that. The defenders of Europe for the Germans, right? In the Second World War. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Let's get some green here. Let's close this up with something in front of it so you don't get backsplash. Some of these watery ass colors just go everywhere. You bought yourself a Gato class model and been building that. I'm thinking about going to see the Gato class sub here in Texas. So you weren't feeling Napoleon, haven't watched it. You should watch it. I would recommend anybody to watch it. It's not like it's got to be better than Thin Red Line. I've only seen that one time and absolutely hated it. You should watch it, But and then I was on the plane with no air signal, right? And I'm like, well, let me go ahead and write my review up. I don't like to write things, especially not on a phone where I make mistakes because I have fat fingers. And I went and wrote my little takeaway of it. Now, I am no Napoleonic expert. I know a lot more than most people, which is not saying anything. And that's just a lot of money to spend on making something like that. That's just kind of a poor representation of it. I mean, actors, we pay you to act. I don't think Joaquin Phoenix is a bad actor, but he made zero attempt to have an accent other than his own very one that he uses in every movie. That's pretty shitty, you know. Um, and regardless of who played him, it was written pretty poorly. So you don't get a sense of seeing, okay, why was this guy a brilliant tactician that took over, that won so many battles? Nope. Nope. You just he just fires at long range with cannons, and that's it. And a whole lot of effort was spent on him and Josephine. A whole lot of effort. So go watch Waterloo. Well, the problem with watching Waterloo, it's only one battle, and it's at the very end. It's like, and he didn't win. So it'd be like, and Napoleon losing battles was the exception. I mean, what do you do? Like, okay, I'm not a Napoleonic expert, but let's say he fought 100 battles, just to use an even number. What did he lose? 4? Maybe? 5? I mean, that's about what the percentage was. But for somebody like me, the Napoleonic isn't really my period. But if it was, I was really interested in it. It would prompt me to read other stuff about the period. It would prompt me to read, like, okay, why did the Russians switch sides after they made a peace? Because the way that it's presented in the movie, it seemed like he'd made a deal with them, and it was the Russians who went back on him. And he was pissed at him. Well, no shit, they went back on the deal. That's kind of dishonorable. What caused them to do that? Was that even the case? You're just seeing a movie adaptation of something. So, there's some interesting questions to read about. I don't really have the interest in wargaming that period, so it's kind of falls flat on me. But and there's no harm in the movie if you go out and you read other stuff about the period, and that's not the only thing you ever read about that is what you see in that one movie. And unfortunately, that's how movies are. People are just, well, that's not how it was. That's not how it was presented. Yeah, there we go. That's good. Most movies are bad, not because of the acting in them. And not necessarily because of the writing in them. They just spend too much time on stuff that they shouldn't spend much time on, and not enough time on stuff they should spend more time on. That's almost always the case. When you're talking about historical films, that's certainly the case. You want Napoleon to lose? Okay, hold on a second. I'll go watch Waterloo, like biopics, and highlight one moment in a person's life. I don't like it when they try to condense someone's life into one movie. I want Napoleon to lose. You ever hear about the USS Barb and its Commander Lucky Flucky? I have not. But I'm not really familiar with submarines, U.S. submarine histories. You want Napoleon. See that? I'm watching this. Okay? And even before this, if somebody says, what do you think about Napoleon? Do you think he's a good guy, or do you think he's a bad guy? And my unexpert opinion is that he's like Alexander the Great, except he's not into dudes. Okay? And he wears pants. He's just power hungry. He's not. I mean, I'm sure there were situations where they treated whatever poorly. Okay, I mean that happens in war, but I'm just saying that they're not any. I don't think he's any worse than he certainly can't be worse than the fucking Russians. I mean, the Russians had serfs and stuff like that. You know, I just don't consider the French as the bad guys. I mean, the French are as much the bad guys as the Germans are the bad. The French and Napoleonics are the bad guys as much as the Germans are the bad guys in World War One. You know, I just don't think that's the case. You know, um, so anyhow, I don't really root for anybody. I don't really have anything against the guy. Um, and the movie certainly did not portray him as evil by any stretch of the imagination. It definitely did not. It portrayed him as basically someone with a low self esteem that needed this woman to um, make him feel like a man, and um, he was winning battles and conquering shit to make up for that. And when he tossed her aside because she couldn't give him an heir, he had kind of got a better self esteem because he had won battles, even though he still had feelings for her. That's kind of what it was, but it was like it didn't show anything about why he won battles and other people didn't, or his inspirational leadership, or you know I don't know anything about the Battle of Austerlitz other than that Napoleon won it and it was against the Austrians and Russians. Right, that's the only thing, and it was in 1806. That's what I know. That was one of his big battle wins, and the movie the battle in the movie was portrayed like I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, this is the battle like between the Teutonic Knights and Alexander Nevsky over the ice. Whatever the name of that battle is it Liegnitz? 1214? Where the Teutonic Knights go, yeah, you're not supposed to go across this ice. Ah, fuck this, we're going this, and they fall into the ice and stuff like that. It's basically Liegnitz with cannons. That's the way it was portrayed. I don't know anything about the Battle of Austerlitz. Guaranteed that's not the case, how it went. I don't even remember the Battle of Austerlitz was in the snow. But again, I am not anywhere near a Napoleonic expert because that's just not my thing. But I can tell you that I knew that he fought the Austrians in 1809. None of that was on there. It talked about how he dominated Italy, but that's it. You never saw a battlefield or anything like that. So anyhow, it was just kind of weird. It was kind of odd to spend that kind of money to. It's a good story to read. It's one of those World War II stories you can get you interested in the topic. Well, when I think of World War II, I think submarines, Germans. I understand that the U.S. Navy subs sank a shitload of stuff, and they did. But it's just kind of like, it's just one of those things. I'm guilty of it. I think of, submarines, I think of U-boats. I mean, the British had submarines. The British ran submarines, supplies to Malta and stuff like that. And, and the Japanese, I mean, the Americans sank a ton of shipping, but, it's just not what I think of. And the American subs were much superior to the German ones. The German ones could dive deeper, but the American subs were bigger, faster, longer range. They both had bad torpedoes. They both had bad magnetic torpedoes, both the Americans and the Germans. It's funny, both of those had really bad magnetic torpedoes for the first half of the war, for sure. So, okay, so we got a little bit of a green tint to that on there. I'm going to take these beams on the floor and we're going to paint them a little bit differently, just to make them stand out. And then we'll go and get some black wash and force some shadows where we want to force some shadows. So let me move. I need to move this off this side. I should have enough space to work here. We want to make these dark. We got black already there. Let's get real brown. Oh, as opposed to all the fake versions we've had of it. The USS Barb, which I would imagine is a Gato class, was the first sub to use rockets and was the only ground combat operation to land on Japanese main islands. That's interesting. If you want a good story, Lucky Flucky and USS Barb is a good one. Yeah, I am severely lacking in my knowledge of the Pacific compared to Europe and the Mediterranean. I mean, severely lacking. I mean, like, for one thing I know about for each item that I know about the Pacific, I know 10 in Europe. And it's just, I just not that interested in the Japanese. I'm sorry, you know. Now, with that said, that means there's a whole bunch of interesting information or previously uninteresting information that I can read about. You know, one of the guys that I listen to from time to time is oh shit, who's the guy? Hardcore history guy. Can't think of what his name is right now, but he did a whole series on the Pacific, and I learned all kinds of stuff there I had no idea about. Like, I didn't know anything about the 42 Philippines, nothing. You know, well, I mean more than the average public, but you know, that doesn't mean anything. Dan, what's his freaking name? Dan, you know who I'm talking about. Anyhow, his series on the Pacific was pretty interesting. And the reason why I don't know a whole lot about it is I haven't wargamed it. That's how you learn about stuff, is wargaming it. Or that's the way wargamers learn about stuff, is wargaming it. Dan, what can't I think of what his name is? Carlin, Dan Carlin. Yeah, he did a whole series on the East. I mean, he even starts in the China stuff. You know, because technically, World War II starts in 1937, or maybe even earlier than that, depending on how you want to set your calendars. It's your only World War II knowledge? You think you're only interested in the World War II sub stuff? Well, some of the first video games I ever played on computer were sub simulators. But I always wanted to go after warships. You know, I don't care about sinking merchant shipping because there's nothing glorious in that, even though it's more effective. You know, I'm like, let's go hunt battleships down, you know? God, what was the name of that first sub simulator that I had? It was actually for the Pacific. Well, it was Gato. It was a Gato sub simulator from way back when. EGA graphics, which means you have black, white, magenta, and cyan. That's it. There's your colors. So one of them that I had, and I forget what it was called, actually used ship silhouettes that were all black. So in other words, if you came across a ship, the entire ship was black. But, you know, we have the silhouette depending on which way you were. I forget what the hell that one was called. It wasn't the Gato one. It was a different one. Silent Service. I probably had Silent Service, but I don't remember. Aces of the Deep. I played that one quite a bit, but that's the Germans. Still want to go after the warships. Because in a perfect world, I like the warships sans aircraft carriers. You know, I like the battleship, battlecruiser, cruiser, destroyer type thing. Let me get some more tea. I'll be right back. Gato PC DOS 1984 is an old one. I have to see which one it was that was what it was that it was called. What it was that it was called. So yeah, I'm playing it and I want to go. It's such and such a date, and I'm like, all right, well I know the Yamato would be about here, so let's go hunt it down, and that kind of shit. I forget which one it's called. But if you play on easy, you can go on the surface and you can sink it with your cannon. It takes a lot of hits, but you can still sink it with your cannon. If that's the stupidity you want to see. We need more of this core color because let's see if we can't get this one out. My dad had a PC for work, and I had a PC when nobody else had a PC. What? And no one else I knew. So they were gaming. They were gaming on a Commodore 64, and I never got one of those. Commodore 64 is always, you'd go to these stores in the mall that would sell software, and it had Kampfgruppe. I think that's the one. All those games that were made by Microprose and what have you. Kampfgruppe, it has all these German tanks on the cover, including It's got this like Panzerkiel of Panthers and Panzer IIIs and IVs, and they're all in gray. I'm like, as a kid, I didn't know any better. I'm like, oh, Gray Panther, cool, Graphics look like ass, but still wanted to play it way back when. Couldn't have a Commodore 64. We had a PC, so there was only a few games that would work on PC back then. Sub simulators. Once you play one, you play them all. Same thing with the airplane games and been there, done that. Always wanted to hunt, warships down. I don't care about individual merchantmen, stuff like that. That's just me, though. Freaking cough, man. Stupid ass cough. Yeah, definitely the Pacific is my weak point in Second World War, without a doubt. It's not even close. And mainly it's, it's something that just hasn't interested me. It really didn't interest me in wargaming it. And therefore didn't really look into reading about it on my own time, kind of thing. Now, with that said, I do have a book on Guadalcanal by Richard Frank. I have read that way back when and enjoyed it. And have wargamed naval stuff up to Guadalcanal, and it's been okay. But after that period, I'm not interested in doing something like Mariana's Turkey Shoot or Leyte Gulf or anything like that. That's just, one side has to play, man, we can blow it in this one thing and we're out kind of thing. I'm not saying it was a cakewalk for U.S. servicemen. I'm just saying because everybody back home was doing the stuff that they were doing with production and everything, it made it look like in a game that's very one-sided. So, it's just one of those games where, you've got to create win conditions that are disproportionate. You got to create a win condition that it's this for the Japanese. Like if you're playing advanced squad leader, right? You have two forces that are really disproportionate to each other. One may just need to hold out until a certain turn. They know they're not going to win, but, or get one guy within this many hexes of this board edge kind of thing to call it a win, so to speak. You're not going to win the war, and you may not even win that battle if it played out everywhere, but that's just what it is for play balance. You got something like Battle of Iwo Jima. The Japanese aren't going to win. It's just a matter of can they make the U.S. take enough casualties where they have to send some other reinforcements or what have you. It's not, hey, they were repulsed off the island and the Navy ran away. It's just that's not going to happen. So when you're younger, you don't realize that there's games that allow those kind of victory conditions. You just assume, well, no wonder it's on one side. Only one guy's going to win. Everything's stacked against him. Well, let's see what we got here. That looks all right. The sub is the predator. They have one of the best preserved sub hunters, and then the merchant ships are sailing by you as they're going into Galveston and Houston. Where is the Texas? Is it in dry dock very close to where it used to sit? I never got to go on the Texas. I remember back in the early 80s, we were going to move to where we ended up moving, or Sugar Land. And my dad took the job at the University of Florida instead of going to Sugar Land. But we could have ended up in Sugar Land. And I remember going out there, and the battleship was closing. We showed up too late. Typical us, we'd always show up late for things. When I was growing up, it was a frequent occurrence. And didn't get to go on the USS Texas. But been on the North Carolina, been on the Alabama, but not on the Texas. But I'll tell you what, I was super glad to be in Texas yesterday when we finally landed. Oh man, we all were very glad. All right, I got to figure out what to do with this sign. I think I'm going to put a barrier around it, and I'm going to leave it like freaking blank. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I talked about putting a French sign on there and then just putting something over it if I need to make it Russian. I don't know if that's what I'm going to do or not, but I don't want to cogitate about it. So I'm going to put a border on it, and of course I don't know what color I'm going to use for the freaking border, but it has to be light. It has to be light in color, and I don't want it to be the same color as this trim here. So what do I have here that fits those parameters? This is the same color it's there, so I don't really want to do that either. Let's say we have like a light gray. Let's do a light gray. Let's do this gray, mix it with a little bit of brown, see what we get. This is Texas, also nearby the Seawolf Park. So you can go see the USS Cavala, USS Stewart, and then USS Texas. Stewart sounds like it's a four-stacker destroyer, but there was a Stewart called there back then, but I doubt it's the same one. Four-stacker would be really old destroyer. Stewart's a sub hunter. They had a submarine that was in Tampa. I forget which one it was. It was a World War II sub that was in Tampa. And it got moved over to something really weird like Pittsburgh or something like that. And I'm like, well, Pittsburgh isn't even on a river. I mean, it is on a river, but it's not. It doesn't lead out. So they had to like cut it in parts and reassemble it or something like that. But Tampa used to have a submarine out there. They've got a Liberty ship or Victory ship or something like that out there in their museum, but I've never gone to go see it. Destroyer escort, DE. Edsel class, or what's the other one? Hunt is British. One of them. There's one class that came out before the Edsel. I don't remember what they are. That's one of those things, that stuff's not on your tip of my tongue anymore, I'm not wargaming that stuff. And those don't really figure in any surface battles. I think there's some with that Sir Giles Strait thing where they got bombarded by the Kurita and his whatever battle fleet that is. They had the couple Congos, Nagato, and the Yamato task force. I don't know, 3 or whatever they had. There's some destroyer escorts there with the escort carriers. God, what's that class that came before the Edsel? I don't know. Sure, there was one before that. Probably that one. All right, let's put the base color of this down. Let's see what we get here. Go grab some food. Grab me some. I'm hungry. I'm always hungry. That's the problem with Americans from a board gaming standpoint. It's just, they late war, 43, 44, they would just pick something and just make a shitload of them. Essex class carriers, there was like 24 Essex class carriers or something like that. I don't remember exactly how many, but it was a lot. And some of them didn't serve in World War II, but Fletcher class destroyers, like 175 Fletcher class destroyers or something like that. Square bridge, round bridge. They had their shit down. Let's just make something, just make a crap ton of them. It's practical, but not as exciting from a war game standpoint. I get excited about, one-offs. Hood, how many do they have? One. One of these, one of the other ones. Just from a wargaming aspect, that's what I like. Is it practical? Hell no. I think I just made Mountbatten pink. You naval guys should know what that is. The color it looks like, anyways. Anyways, I look forward to getting back kind of on a more regular painting schedule. Got a lot of buildings to do. So we should be painting this weekend, maybe even tomorrow. And then all next week, the following week, I'm on vacation again, unfortunately. Not because I don't want to go on it, but man, it just kind of happened. These two are very close to each other. So I'm going to go in tomorrow, fix everything, get it all running again, and then be back in a hole again in a week. which is unusual because I don't normally take vacation in the summer, and I certainly don't go on. I've never, many cruises I've been on, I've never been on a cruise in the middle of the summer. So that's going to be hot as shit. That's going to be hot as shit at night. So, but part of that is knowing what your expectations. You know you're going to be hot, so plan for it. And then when you're hot, you're not upset because it's what you thought you were getting yourself into. All right, I'm going to leave that as is for the time being. I'm going to go ahead and do the black lining. I don't know what I'm going to do with the sign yet. We'll do the black lining and then we'll set this aside and start working on the next building. All right. First of all, let's get a brush that'll probably work with a wash pretty good. And we should have one of these open still. Original Nolan oil here. I don't need to pour it in that. That'd be if I was doing the other wash. Pull this out. I had me a miniature of the dude to paint. Is he abiding or what is he wearing? Is he wearing his bathrobe? I never understood what the big deal of that movie was. I saw it. I didn't understand the big deal of it. And I saw it again last, say, 3 years. And I thought it was humorous. Still don't understand what the big deal is of it, but it's okay. That doesn't mean I didn't like it or anything. It's just, it's kind of like The Princess Bride. Lots of people are just in love with The Princess Bride. And I'm like, it's got its funny moments. For the most part, it's like, okay. I don't dislike it. It just kind of what it is. Miniature of the dude. Probably the best role I've ever seen John Goodman do. His character was freaking hilarious. That was 1911. He's got like a sweatshirt on and some pants. It's your friend's favorite movie. I didn't get in the movie, but he's a good friend and would like it as a gift. Yeah, it's an okay movie. It just, I have to watch it again to see exactly what I thought of it. I never saw it in movie theaters. I saw it much, much later for the first time. I probably saw it maybe 10 years ago for the first time. And I watched it again a couple of years ago. Of all the movies out there, that's his favorite movie, huh? Well, I can tell you one thing: ain't no Raiders of the Lost Ark. Ain't. But it's not a movie that I would say. I don't understand why everybody likes this movie. It's a piece of crap. It doesn't fall in that category at all, not even remotely. Because I like all the actors in it, for starters. All the actors? Most of the actors. The actors that are in it that I can remember that are in it, I like. How about that? But you take something like Napoleon Dynamite, and I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? I just like, if you try watching a movie and you can't make it through the movie the first time you try to watch it, it's going to be a hard time watching the second time. And let's just say this is before streaming services, right? Streaming services is like all the time. I'll start watching something like 10 minutes in. If I'm not into it, I'll just turn it off. But you went out and physically rented the movie. You went to Blockbuster or wherever you went, rented the movie for whatever a fixed price or the movie theater, and you don't make it all the way through the movie. If you're like, I just can't take it anymore, I don't give a shit about my money. Just I'm walking away from this thing. It's not a very good movie. You don't think very much of that movie if that's what you're doing. And pretty sure I wasn't streaming it when I saw Napoleon die. I don't remember how old it is, but I'm like, this isn't even funny. Characters with mouth agape does not make a funny movie. It's not a funny reaction to a movie for me. Well, I need more than that. Different people have different. I had a friend of mine whose favorite movie was, and I don't know that I've seen this movie all the way through. I think I've seen parts of it. I may have seen it all the way through, and I wasn't impressed with it. Raising Arizona. Raising Arizona was his favorite movie. He'd quote things out of it all the time. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. But even the movies that I would call my favorite movies, I don't want to watch them even once a year. Like, all right, I know what's going to happen. Why am I keep watching this thing? I'm not one of those people that just remembers lines and watches things multiple times. Hey, somebody gave me a thumbs up. Hallelujah. But there's definitely, when it comes to comedy movies, there's stuff all over the place. There's things that people find funny, and I'm just like, okay, that's all there is. Okay, then. My daughter finds things funny, and my wife and I may not find them funny. She really liked The Office. I didn't think it was funny. Not certainly to watch a second episode, or I think we watched like 3 or something. I'm like, all right, tap me out. The Dude Abides. One movie that I really like that Jeff Bridges is in it, and I haven't seen it again. I think I saw it twice way back in the day. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I remember really liking it. It was a movie that I was surprised that I liked it. It was The Fisher King. I hadn't seen it in a long time. I think it's actually a Terry Gilliam movie, if I remember correctly. Jeff Bridges, Robin Williams. Hadn't seen it in a long time. Speaking of Jeff Bridges, I haven't seen him in too many movies. The Lebowski movie, Fisher King, Tron? Is he the original guy in Tron and then won the Tron remake? I don't think I saw the first Tron. I remember the video game back in the arcade, but oh, he's in Iron Man. I like Jeff Bridges. Just haven't seen him in a lot of stuff. Yeah, Jeff Bridges with no hair is an Iron Man. Kind of the opposite look of Lebowski, where he's got too much hair. I don't know what it is with this wash, but it seems to be awful thin today. But this just really is just to kind of enhance the shadows. But getting back to your sub thing, I did like subs as a kid. I always thought they were cool. Especially the German subs. They just looked wicked. In this picture I saw in a book that this U-boat or whatever, and it had on the front of it, it had like a saw facing outwards, so the teeth were towards the outside, almost kind of like. And I used to think that, okay, well, they would tie it off somewhere, and when they needed to break free, they just go, and they would just cut that. I don't know if that was the case. I don't remember what drawing that was, but it's kind of stuck in my mind that that's what that U-boat looked like. It had this little saw in the front to kind of like, rapid escape or something like that from there. I remember that. I always thought the U-boats looked pretty cool. Type 7s. Haven't gotten to German subs yet. Seems like they're either kicking ass or getting their ass kicked. Yeah. Yeah, the German subs are smaller, could dive a lot deeper than the American subs. But a lot deeper is, you think subs diving. And without doing a lot of research, think of it this way. If you have a submarine that's this long, and the US submarines were like about 350 feet long, something like under 400 feet long. They could dive. I could be wrong on this, but just take it as a grain of salt. When they're diving their max dive, they're basically going the depth of their length. Okay, so if they're this long, that's how deep they can maximally go. And that's not very deep when you think about it. That's not what you expect as a kid. You expect it to go down, at least to the freaking floor, right? Maybe 10 times your length. No, it's just and the German ones, I think, could go like 3 times their length. They could go down to like 1,000 feet, and they were shorter. German subs were like in a 250-foot range, something like that. That's not very deep, especially when you're a kid. you're like a 10-year-old kid. Like, how deep can a sub go? Oh, you don't. It didn't take long to get dark down there. So not that you could see out of them or anything, but I'm surprised read about that. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I remember. Just take everything. I mean, you did, but just take everything as a grain of salt. What I said, because it's like, oh, no, American subs could go 650 feet deep. Okay, that's still not very deep. When you think about it, just think of it as a function of their length, of their physical length. Let me give you another example. Force Z. You may not be familiar with Force Z. I'll give you kind of a little quick rundown of Force Z. Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, declared war, basically attacked the United States, and same time they were doing that, they were playing cleanup in Southeast Asia. They attacked the British and Commonwealth forces over in Singapore and Malaysia, all that kind of stuff. Before they did all that stuff, just a few days afterwards, they're landing troops on the Malay Peninsula. The British send Force Z, which consists as its core of battleship and battlecruiser, the Prince of Wales and the Repulse. One of my favorite. I love the German World War I ships, but I really like the British World War II ships because in World War II you've got camouflage, and that gives them an extra kind of personality to them. And not only that, but the things that in World War I, Britain, they had one-offs, but they would have these classes of like 4 or 5 ships, all that were aesthetically the same. Well, World War II, a lot of them survived and were converted. So you've got 2 that are sisters, Renown and Repulse. They're totally different. Their main armament is the same, pretty much. Elevation might be different on some of them, like some were modernized in different ways. But Repulse is a little bit less modernized than Renown. But regardless, between the camouflage schemes and the different upgrades, it gives all those ships that extra little bit of personality to make them all different from each other, which makes it interesting from the wargaming / modeling part of me. But anyways, I digressed tremendously on that. But Prince of Wales, who was one of the ones that was hunting the Bismarck, and the Battle with the Hood was the one that got damaged and had to leave the battle. And the Repulse, 2 battleship, battlecruiser, and 4 destroyers, something like that. So they leave Singapore to go stop the Japanese forces that are landing several miles north of Singapore to take over Malay Peninsula and cut off Singapore and eventually capture Singapore. So they take off to the north a few days after Pearl Harbor. They get caught by the Japanese land-based aircraft, Betty bombers and stuff like that, carrying torpedoes and bombs and stuff like that, and get basically with no aircraft cover. There's an aircraft carrier supposed to go with them, and there was an issue where it didn't go with them, and they had no air cover. And in a matter of hours, both of the 2 big ships are sunk. Prince of Wales, King George V class battleship, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 750 feet long. And Repulse is about the same thing. Repulse is a very long ship for a World War I ship. Very late World War I battle cruiser, probably about the same length. They sank in under 300 feet of water or so. So if you took this ship that was sunk, this battleship that was sunk in the open ocean, so to speak, if you tipped it on its end, half of the ship will be sticking up out of the water. That's not very deep. It's not so deep that I found out recently that, it's a war grave, and vessels have come and basically like stripped like propellers and shit off of them over the years. Who exactly did it, I'm not exactly sure. It may have been the Chinese, it may not have been the Chinese, it may have been somebody in the name of the Chinese, whatever. They've stripped a lot of this stuff out of those 2 battleships. But what was kind of unique is that the depth the depth of it. The Battle of Jutland. The Battle of Jutland is out in the middle of the freaking North Sea. Um, it is on a rise, so to speak, that is less deep than the length of most of the ships that were sunk there. The less than the depth of the capital ships that are sunk there. You just don't think of depth that way. And then you've got extremes, like you've got the place where the Bismarck rests, and the Hood too. The Hood's in a really deep place as well. It's like the Bismarck's like at 15,000 feet deep where the Bismarck is, and she's 800 or so feet deep. So you've got 20 times deeper than its length to the bottom of the ocean. And you got other places where it's the open ocean. I mean, you're 20 miles out from land, and it's half as deep as the ship is long. It's just kind of interesting to kind of look at that. It's just stuff you don't normally think about. And yeah, I remember as a kid, I'm like, what do you mean a submarine can't only goes 500 feet deep? That's like, it's the length. Like, what the hell? It's not very deep. And the World War One subs are even worse. World War One subs are just, it was just basically a ship with the option of submersing itself, So, just interesting stuff to think about. So you got some of these wrecks that, can be, you can dive at them without any special equipment. But after you get it over, I don't know, and I don't know exactly what it is, but after you get over about 100 feet deep, it starts getting real dark. And you think, well, that's not that. But there's just particulates in the water and stuff like that that all contribute to that. Food for thought. I'm just fertilizing your brain with ideas of things to look at in detail later. This is all from memory, not I did not plan to talk about that on the show. I read about it ahead of time, but it's just one of those things. It's kind of interesting. That's not what you would expect. The west coast of Florida is not very deep for a long way out. And the east coast of Florida, once you get however many miles it is out there, 10, 5, I don't know, something like that, it drops off big time. It's not a trench, but it's a lot deeper. So hold on one second. I'm gonna see what the ruckus is there. Hold on. Your favorite World War II sub names are USS Harder and USS Flasher. Well, German subs suck because they just have numbers. So there's actually a lot of really good U.S. sub. You know, I don't like U.S. ship names that are named after somebody you don't know who the hell they are. And especially if they have a first, a middle, and a last name. It's just kind of dorky. And I'm sorry, I know it's not trying to be disrespectful, but it's just not, I don't get excited about names like that. The U.S. subs are all named after fish, or a lot of them are named after fish, and some of them are pretty cool named. So, got to pull out my Conways to get all the. I always like subs have like big cannons on them. It's like there's only one Surcouf. It has a double 8-inch guns. That's just absurd. I actually didn't get captured by the French. I didn't capture by the Germans. I think it was out in Martinique or somewhere out in the Caribbean when France fell. So the Germans never got a hold of it. I don't know if it was that useful, but it did have double 8-inch guns and a turret with limited traverse. But U.S. had some subs with 6-inch guns on them. Pretty sure. They were older ones. Still modern. It's not like they were World War I ships, but I remember that when I was playing one of those submarine games. I always wanted one of the ones that had the big cannon. Because most of the time, that's what you're using to sink the merchantmen, right? You have a limited amount of torpedoes. Those are for like the warships. But regular merchantmen, you come up and start shelling them with some 4, 5, or 6-inch rounds. Start getting them blaze and burn them down to the waterline. Torpedoes, you're very limited on how many you have. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Gatos are, even though they have the name of a cat, Gato. I'll go grab my Conways. Show you which one I'm talking about. I don't think it was a huge class. The Gators, they made a zillion of them. Gold standard here. Conway's all the world's fighting ships. I don't know why it looks like it's backwards on the screen. Hopefully it's not backwards on yours. U.S. are at the front. It's by size of navy, so the bigger your navy is, the farther you are towards the front. Now, this is Great Britain. Great Britain's number 1. U.S. is number 2. And they're going to be towards the back here. Sumner class, Gearing class destroyer. Destroyer escorts. See if I can come up with that. Remember what that class is. It is. You call them something different than I'm normally used to. Edsel. the ones before Edsel. Submarines, Barracuda class. It launched in the 20s. 3 of those. Barracuda class. Argonaut, there's a one-off. Narwhal, there we go. Narwhal's got a big ass gun. 2 6-inch guns. Look at this big boy right here. Narwhal. It's 2987 tons. That is a big boy. Let's put it into perspective. Well, Gato's a big sub too. Yeah, but the Gatos are 1526. So this thing's almost twice as big as a Gato. And yeah, I'll guarantee it's not as effective as a Gato, but you know, it was built in 27. 2 of them, Nautilus and the Narwhal. One was launched in 27, the other one launched in 30. These 2 ships were cruiser submarine equivalents of the Argonaut with a pair of stern tubes in place of her 2 mine-laying tubes. They were the largest U.S. submarines until, wow, look at that. It's largest U.S. submarines until the advent of the nuclear submarine Nautilus 30 years later. Characteristics required a maximum speed of 17 knots on the surface and omitted the aircraft called for in the cruiser mine layer. Both ships were re-engined with Fairbanks Morse diesels in 1940-41. The composite power plants replaced by a diesel-electric type used in more modern fleet boats. Range was 18,000 nautical miles. That's one hell of a range. At 10 knots and 50 nautical miles at 5 knots, so 50 nautical miles underwater. Much of their war service was devoted to the transport of raiding parties. Major war alteration was the addition of 4 external torpedo tubes, 2 forward and 2 under the raised gun deck amidships. So I guess they had them inside this part here. Interesting. 2 6-inch guns. Blammo. Dolphin, there's a one-off. Catch-a-lot class. Catch-a-lot and cuttlefish. Porpoise, pike, shark, tarpon, perch, pickerel, permit, plunger, pollock, pompano. So all these had P names for that class. Salmon class. Sargo and sea dragon classes. These are all pre-Gato. Mackerel, marlin. And then the Gato, there's just an absurd amount. The Gato, the Belau, and the Tench classes are all lumped together, and there must be 100 of them between all of them. Yeah. Narwhal. I always wanted to have the Narwhal. It has 6-inch guns. Gato's got what, a 5? I think it's got a 5-inch gun. No, it's got a 3. C notes. It was upgraded. Some were equipped with a 4-inch gun, looks like. And some were fitted with a 5. Okay. Yep. They made a shitload of Gatos. And they are named after fish, aren't they? Let's see. Looks like it. Flying fish, finback, haddock, halibut, herring, kingfish, shad, silversides, trigger, wahoo, whale. Yep. Looks like it. Didn't know there was that many. Hey, we need more subs. Holy shit, we gotta name some new fishes. We need new fish names. You just put that book on your wish list. Those books are excellent. They used to be the gold standard in the 1980s. I don't know if there's something better than them now. Probably the internet, but they were the gold standard. Torpedoes for Destroyers. Just put that book on my wish list. Hopefully, my OnlyFans subscriber will buy it just for my JK. No, hopefully, if you're kidding, and if you're not kidding, I need to know what the hell what the topic of your OnlyFans is. Mitch's OnlyFans is his feet, so we know that. He's definitely technology. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't know how to do that. I'd make one of them sites. I don't know. Maybe it's better not to know. I can't say that I've ever seen what the hell one of those sites is, because you can't see what the hell they're about for free. So why would you pay for something that you have no idea what it could possibly be? Just using logic, folks. Technologically challenged. There you go. I can be that way at times. I don't like it when you learn how to do something and then they decide to change it just for yucks. Like, I don't do this for a living, so I don't like it when they change things just because. See if anything else needs to be highlighted more than there already is. We got some blast marks in here that added some of this on the other building. You said World War II is just kind of the only thing that you know. What's your main area of interest or knowledge other than Godzilla? Sure, there's got to be something else. I did finally finish watching that Godzilla movie. I don't remember if I told you or not, but let's just say I don't want to see it again. Although the special effects with the freaking cruiser were pretty awesome. The tanks sucked. They just weren't even painted. But the cruiser was awesome. The Takao was awesome. Three Kingdoms, all the stuff we used to post on Thanaticus right now, really into World War II. Three Kingdoms. What character from the Three Kingdoms do you dislike? Who's your least favorite Three Kingdoms character? I guess it'd probably be different on the video game, the book, movies, because they've got several movies and movie series on the Three Kingdoms. I haven't seen any of those. I suspect they make all the characters look more normal instead of their glorified video game version. And they got lots of characters that may be really important people in real life, but for whatever reason they decided to make them generic. You know, if you play any of those video games, you'll have some guy be like some general that just looks like all the other ones. You know, almost like the guys look like kind of like the court. What do you call those? The court scribes. They don't have a particular look to them. You know, they very well could be very influential generals, but the way they're represented in the video game, they don't look special. You know, they just kind of look like just run of the mill kind of dudes. Think I liked them all. Once read all the histories and all the cartoonish characters became more like real people. You liked them all. Even Dong Zhuo? I can't stand that barbarian guy. Whoever he is. Something Meng or Meng something. I don't like that guy. The guy you gotta beat like 3 times or whatever. What a pain in the ass. Or when you have to face Lu Bu, he's the biggest badass on the planet. And then when you finally unlock Lu Bu, he's like, he fights almost like everybody else. I'm like, why did I have so much trouble with this dude, you know? Dong Zhuo was one of my favorites. I like to say Dong Zhuo did nothing wrong. No one I know likes the Three Kingdoms stuff. They're all in a Roman Greek at World War II stuff. Yeah. No, I like the Three Kingdoms stuff. I definitely like House Wu the least. I just don't I'm just not into him. I don't mean I dislike him. Just there's just too many of the characters, and I'm like just kind of indifferent. They got the one guy on there. It's one of the generals. He looks like a little sailor boy or whatever. Got a little sailor type hat. I'm like, whatever. Got the girl that's got the little round. She's got like little round fighting elements. Nah. The only female character that's cool is the flute player from Cao Cao's army. Wei. She's cute. She's cute. Whatever her name is. I forget if she's whose girlfriend she is, but her character is super cute. She plays a battle flute. Whatever the hell that means. Just watching this series on YouTube about the really corrupt Wu Clan member got a lot of own people murdered for power. I'm sure we all did that. Ruthless bastards, all of them. They have to be. Who's the cute Wei girl? J-I something. I don't know. At least in video games, she's cute. I got some of them songs stuck in my head. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. I kind of came across it by accident. So, way back when. Zenji. She is Cao Pi's wife. Okay. And that's Cao Pi. Sorry. Bad habits. Cao Pi's wife. Yeah, she's cute in the video game. At least in 3, 4, and 5. Like the Samurai Warrior stuff too, or just the Dynasty Warriors? Samurai Warriors has the one guy that reminds me of Herman Goering. Big, big old furry, big old fat furry guy. I forget who it is. I think those are for the original Xbox. I have them. 3 is for sure. That's the first one I played. And it's funny because I don't really like fighting games. But it's a little more than that. Shinji is a weird name to give her because we Westerners think of her name, it just means like Lady G in Chinese. Oh, so Zhen means lady? Just the 3 kingdoms, no samurai warriors, trying to get into Nobunaga's ambition. Yeah. Now, I wonder why they focused on Nobunaga. I guess he was the first guy that tried to unify everything unsuccessfully. All right. I think we're done with this. We need to go to the next. I don't know what I want to do with the sign. I'm not going to sit here and cogitate over it. We call this one done other than the sign. Which I'm going to do that whole, I got it written down here somewhere, the baguette factory. I just don't know what style of writing I'm going to do yet. So, okay. So we got 2 down. Who's our next culprit? Should probably do this one next. Because it would be right across the street from this other one. So we're going to do that one next. Yep. This one, I do not think it has any extra pieces at all. We've got level 1, basically the ground level. Then you got 1 level, and then if there was anything above that, that's gone. And the interesting thing is this has this top level, but no second level. Probably just collapsed. I didn't watch any of the Shogun series because I wasn't sure if I was watching the correct one. Is it one that's basically a new take on the Shogun that was done with the Western thing? If it was, no, I didn't, because I'm just not interested in the Western interaction. And it's after, I wish it was like the Nobunaga's ambition period. I wish it was the 1500s. And no, I didn't watch it. Reconnected. Well, why did it disconnect to begin with? Okay, so brickwork. Oh boy, there is a ton of this here. A ton. Well, since the last one I did, I bought some new brushes, so we're going to abuse them on this. for sure. Yeah, if it was Samurai Warriors or Nobunaga's Ambition or any of that stuff, I would have definitely watched it. You know, all the Japanese people, uh, I would definitely would have watched it. And I want to say when it was first presented to me, a few months ago, that's I thought what it was. What it was, you know. What the heck? Okay. So, is this the one I want to use, or is this one too small and useful for other things? I think it's too small and useful for other things. Use a brush that. Let's use this black brush. It's hard to see if it's dirty or not for this base color. Whole lot of brickwork. Now, on one of the wargaming pages, and I don't remember which one it is, there's a guy that posted a bunch of figures over the last week, but lots of pictures over the last week of all the buildings that he has, including some of these. And he had all of these painted in a similar fashion that I'm doing. You know, in other words, the brick is the same color that I'm doing, you know, red brick colored. But he had his all done like they were for Russia. And if you do look for Normandy buildings, you'll see that a lot of them have a lighter color brick color than this. It's almost like a maybe like that, maybe a sandish type color, but not always. I just had to make the decision of okay, I'm not going to do that because then that kind of looks out of place in Russia. So you know, I want to use these for both. And I was a little taken aback. Maybe that's not the right word I'm thinking of. I was a little disappointed that he had done that because it kind of it sowed some doubt into whether or not I shouldn't be doing this in a different brick color. But I'm too far along now. I've got two buildings. All these that have this little brick is all going to be red brick, so it's looks cohesive, and all of them are together. But yeah, I could see what he was doing, but all these buildings this particular person was using for Russia. Like that factory even had a Russian inscription on it, like, you know, whatever the heck it was the factory thing for it. So, and I don't have a problem with these being for Russia, but you know, there's just things on here that just don't look Russian to me. You know, anyhow, I'm not saying it can't be used, but it's kind of interesting to see what he did with them. Not that there's any really up close pictures of them, but still. already? That's good. I'm going to have to cut off relatively soon because I got to get up at an absurd hour. I mean, something like 4 in the morning or something like that. And you'd be at work at 5. Shore up whatever went on while I wasn't there. Today was the day I should have been there. I was supposed to be there and couldn't make it. And there's no point in showing up at like 4:30. So we're just going to start with a clean slate tomorrow. But there's going to be the damage control parties are going to be out in full force. That's for sure. But so I got to get some shut eye at some decent time. And of course, we were 2 hours behind. 2 hours behind, yeah. So it's just shy of 8 here, and where I spent the last week, it'd be just shy of 6. So it makes it a little different. It's not terrible, but it makes it a little bit more difficult to wake up. So, but we're going to be going to work tomorrow and Saturday, but. I'm still doing my show Saturday morning. I'm not gonna be there at the ass crack of dawn on Saturday. At least I'm not planning on it. Don't take my show away, damn it. Yeah, I got homework I got to do. See y'all later. Okay, man. Thanks for stopping by. You said you were leaving, and then the number of people that are online went up. I don't know what that means. But I'm pretty happy with how the brick looks. It was just that guy just kind of sowed some doubt as to like, if I really wanted this to look more France-like, should I have done a different color brick? So no, I can find pictures of red brick in France. It's just, there's lots of that buff color, so to speak. We'll call it buff colored brick also, but there'll be other buildings that we can use that buff color and mix in with them. And I'm going to need to eat something before I go to bed. Let's at least knock all this brickwork out first before we go off in a different tangent. As soon as I got back into Florida, I started coughing again. Not a lot, just kind of weird. Must be something in the environment. And it's funny because where I went, everything everything was cloudy. It almost looked like it was pollution. It wasn't. It was just how dusty it was, and didn't cough at all there. Come here where it's not dusty and I'm coughing. Interesting. Annoyingly interesting. Okay, there's no brick on this wall. None there. Of not one little bit. Nothing. There's the insides here. Oh, shit, that's the brown. Okay, there's the insides of this wall. Okay. Then we're going to dry brush the stucco color on top of this. So anything we over brush isn't a big deal. We're just going to end up going over it anyways. All right, we got this whole outside on here that needs to be done. Whoa. And we're not going to lighten this up. We're going to stop after we give this the first coat. And that's what we'll pick up. That's where we will pick up when we get back, which will probably be Saturday morning. Well, maybe tomorrow night. Tomorrow night. Get something done tomorrow night. Okay, that's where we're going to stop this set of row houses. Or all three of these are going to be brick. They'll have, looks like they got some shutters, and that'll give them a little bit of color, maybe to stand out. Not sure what we're going to do yet for it, but maybe we'll add something that has a little bit of color to it, not make it look so drab. But that's where we'll leave off until next time. Thanks for stopping by, folks. And hope to catch you guys later on over the weekend. All right, folks. Have a good night. Bye-bye.